Herman Cain, candidate for the presidency, wants that GOP nomination, is leading everywhere from Iowa to Rick Perry's state of Texas, and has taken the country by storm. We saw from our Facebook page yesterday that our listeners across the United States, whether they are supporting him or not, find this kind of late anonymous hit on him to be questionable at best and irrelevant given the problems that are facing the United States with America in decline, most recently evident as to how this G20 is shaping up in France. And he joins us now, Herman Cain. Mr. Cain, how are you?
I am fantastic, Laura. Thank you very much.
It is great to talk to you, sir, and we have a lot of issues we want to hit, but on this issue of this controversy that arose after the Politico piece was published, you said earlier, and this was yesterday, I guess, at the National Press Club event, which I wanted to go to, but I wasn't able to get there. This is what you said initially about this report. Let's listen.
As far as a settlement, I am unaware of any sort of settlement. I hope it wasn't for much, because I didn't do anything. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not aware of a settlement that came out of that accusation.
And then later on Greta Van Sustren's show, you said this.
I do remember my general counsel saying, the good news is, we didn't pay all of this money that was being demanded. It really worked out to what we probably would have been able to give her if she had resigned for cause.
What happened between the time you gave the speech, Mr. Cain, and then later on in the day with Greta? You seem to gain new knowledge about these settlements.
Here's what happened, Laura. Remember, this happened 12 years ago, and the word settlement suggested to mean some sort of legal settlement. And later, as I thought about it, I did recall an agreement with the lady that left who made the false accusation. So that's when I said, yes, there was an agreement. But when I was initially hit with this, when I woke up yesterday morning trying to stay on focus on my day, I didn't recall it right away. So, yes, there was an agreement that I later, added to my explanation.
Well, the Politico claims that they have been contacting your campaign staff for some days regarding this piece, that they were thinking of running with this piece, and yet they couldn't get really anywhere with your campaign. So you were aware that this story was going to come out, right?
Yes, well aware that this story was going to come out, but we made a conscious decision. We weren't going to chase anonymous sources and not knowing what they were going to put in the article. So we made a conscious decision that we will deal with it when it comes out, because otherwise we would be chasing some anonymous sources, and they were trying to basically goad us into volunteering some information, and we didn't know what they had. Information.
Sorry, go ahead.
All of the information relative to this, I have been very open and honest with it. And as I mentioned earlier, this happened 12 years ago, and so I have been trying to recollect all of the various pieces of this throughout all day yesterday, and the best account is the one that I did on Greta Van Sustren later that evening. Not changing the story, but trying to fill in as many details as I could possibly recall.
And the event that took place 12 years ago, did this involve a gesture on your part, an invitation on your part? Specifically, what did it involve?
It did not involve an invitation. One gesture that I recalled was one standing close to the lady and saying, "You are the same height as my wife." And I brought my hand up to my chin. I didn't touch her. Brought my hand up to her chin, up to my chin, saying, "You're the same height as my wife, because my wife is 5 feet tall, and she comes up to my chin." I was standing near the lady. I was not touching her when I did that.
So you're not somebody then, Mr. Cain, who routinely makes, sexual jokes around women or comments around women like that?
Never. And all you have to do is look at the fact that I've been in business for over 40 years. I worked for different companies and different organizations, and this was the only time being around a lady thought that was sexual harassment, and it was shown that it had no basis. It was resolved, and it had no basis. Look at the fact that I've been, in different organizations all these years, and this is the only one. Now, when Tom Brokaw and others say we should get it all out there, there's nothing else to get out there. I'm convinced at this point people might make up stuff, but you can't stop people from making up stuff. And so there's nothing else to it. The best recollection of all the details that I could come up with in the course of the day, in the middle of this firestorm, I went through. Greta did a good job last night of asking me tough questions, and that was all that I could recollect, and that's why that is the best recollection of what went on back then.
Well, believe me, I don't remember what happened last month, let alone what happened 12 years ago. So I'm not anyone to criticize here. But apparently the Politico, again, anonymous. They say there are two such agreements under which these women departed the National Restaurant Association. That there were two events. You don't recall the second event, just the first event.
I don't recall the second one. I'm not even aware of it. I mean, if it were, maybe it happened after I left. Remember, I was at the Restaurant Association for 2.5 years. The first lady was there while I was there, and she ended up leaving before I left, so she was not there a long time. The second one that they're referring to, I am totally unaware of whether that was some sort of agreement for some reason. If there were, I'm totally unaware of it.
And Mr. Cain, I know that you have risen in the polls, and I said this on Fox last week, and people thought I was being kind of flip, but I really wasn't when I said you might be the most surprised of anyone that you are where you are in these polls. I mean, you're beating Rick Perry in Texas. You're statistically tied with Mitt Romney right now in Iowa. Do you feel that this report, as it's developed and as it's come out, do you feel that the timing of it is in any way suspicious, given your rise in the polls?
Absolutely, Laura. Your first point, we are surprised that we have been so consistently statistically tied with Mitt Romney. We were hoping by this time that we would be in contention, strong contention, so people could realize that I'm taking this presidency and I'm taking this campaign very seriously. But you're right. There is no doubt in my mind, no doubt in our minds, that this is because I have done so well in the polls consistently. And the other thing, Laura, that I would add is I'm sure that there are going to be some more trumped-up charges. People are going to try to dig up some things. Here's one that's out there on the Internet that maybe you hadn't heard about yet. Someone went back and dug up a picture in 1983 when I was at Burger King. In 1983, and now they're trying to tie me to Jesse Jackson, of all people, saying that it was because of Jesse Jackson that I got my job as a regional vice president at Burger King. That is absolutely not the case. You haven't seen it yet, but I just got it this morning. And they're basically saying I was given that job when I worked my way up in Burger King, went through training, worked in a restaurant, went to Whopper College, did all of that stuff. And
Whopper College.
Now they're trying to minimize.
No, they're trying to tell Whoppers. No, they're trying to tell Whoppers about you're going to Whopper College. All right?
They're telling a Whopper about me going to Whopper College. I graduated as a valedictorian at Whopper College.
All right. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, I think that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I thought you were going to tell us that you were dressed up like like a Whopper with cheese or something at first. A photo of you as a Whopper with cheese. Now that would bring me to question you, Herman Cain. Mr. Cain, we're talking about all sorts of issues today. This G20 summit, this week in Cannes, in France, where we're finding now that China is really taking center stage in these debt negotiations. I want to get into that with you. But before we do, there's this other piece that I know your campaign is dealing with that came out in yesterday's New York Times about a former campaign aide of yours that documents, according to this report, show that this aide gave you tens of thousands of dollars in goods and services that helped at the very beginning of your presidential campaign. It's a nonprofit group called Prosperity USA that essentially subsidized some of your early costs of your presidential bid, and that raises questions of campaign finance law violations. Are you aware of this report?
I am aware of the report. I just heard about it yesterday. We are doing a full investigation of it, and if there were any improprieties, we will go back and amend the FEC report. The last thing I want to do, Laura, is to do anything illegal or something that we shouldn't do. So at this point, we are going back through and double-checking and making sure that we have all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed.
Yeah, that would be, fairly significant if you're getting campaign donations either directly or indirectly through any violation of campaign finance law. And that story came out yesterday and involves, I guess, Mark Block, who is your chief of staff. So you'll be giving us a report on that later on today, or
yep.
you're going to. Okay.
As soon as we know what's what, Laura, we will not only issue a press release, but I will make sure that we let you know exactly what we found out, and if there are any improprieties, we will correct them. But here again, going back to your earlier point, we believe that this hit piece in Politico to bring up something that had no basis, along with this report coming out of Wisconsin, because, as you know, my chief of staff has also gotten a lot of attention lately because of an ad that a lot of people liked, some people didn't. It was a double hit because of the success that we have been enjoying. The people are connecting with me and my message, Laura. That's what it is. And since my critics don't know how to stop this, they can't go after the message. They can only go try and attack me personally.
How are you going to get your message out when these crises develop, whether some of them have validity with this most recent New York Times report, or something which my gut tells me is just absolutely obscenely ridiculous, this report in Politico? But how do you get your message out about tax simplification and restoring America's a sense of, I think, ascendancy and national pride, given the fact that we're in decline today? How do you address that with all these crises popping up?
Well, we're going to continue to do what we are doing, and that is taking it directly to the people. For example, despite this firestorm yesterday, I did not cancel one engagement. I had a packed house at American Enterprise Institute where I was able to talk about 999, answer questions in detail. We had the the Press Club event that you referred to. We were determined we were going to do that. It was a sold-out crowd. This is what we're going to do. These things will be a distraction, Laura, but we're not going to change our game plan as far as going directly to the people, taking the message to the people. And if some of the people in the media want to cover all of these sideshows, that's their choice. But the people are still going to hear what we're about, the issues, the solution that we're proposing. The one that we're going to roll out in the next 2 weeks is our energy independence plan. I'm excited about putting that one out there because
Excellent.
This is why people are connecting with what I'm talking about.
I think they like the fact I think they like the fact, Mr. Cain, also that they like the fact that you go on the offensive. Because there are a lot of people crouching. They're in a defensive crouch all the time, or they're hiding behind this cloak of anonymity. They're too afraid to have their names attached to a story. I think the fact that you're out there, you're making your point known. I do think there's some good wisdom in this idea that you should get whatever's out there. They're trying to drum up, get the details out, and then deal with it as it is. But I think that's connecting with people. The fact that you go on the offensive and that you don't allow other people to determine the agenda, whether people are supporting you or not. I think they like that about you, and I think that has to continue in politics. Otherwise, we're going to see all good people drummed out of politics in the United States of America. Are you getting a staff now? Or you have more of a staff than you had before? I mean, you were a little thin on that staff situation.
Oh yeah, we were lean and mean, but as a result of what has happened over the past few weeks, we have been ramping up very quickly. And see, here's what some of the pundits did not know, Laura. We had people ready to bring on board as soon as the campaign took off, and as soon as we were able to get the fundraising going. In order to be able to afford staff. As a businessman, my natural instincts won't let me spend too much money that I don't have. I had to put the money into the campaign to sort of prime the pump, and then we had a lot of people started to contribute early, and now the fundraising has increased significantly. And I'll give you this little bit of information. Laura, and this is breaking news. Yesterday with the firestorm was one of our best fundraising days online ever since this campaign started.
Take that, Herman.
One of the best ones ever, Laura. Okay.
No, that's hilarious. Take that, Herman's Hermits. You know, I call Herman's Hermits. That I'm using that. All right, Mr. Cain, we really appreciate it. We went really long here. We really appreciate you coming on the show and getting the word out. And we ask tough questions of everybody. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Laura.